Hey everyone, it's Jack here, just checking in ahead of this opposition preview. Chris has filmed a half-hour preview with Sunderland fan Michael Bowers. Fascinating insight into what's going up at Sunderland at the moment. Since recording, Sunderland boss Alex Neil, of course former Norwich City boss Alex Neil, has been given permission to start to speak to Stoke regarding their vacant managerial position. So how that develops over the next 24 hours will be fascinating. I can't imagine in any situation that's perfect prep for them. Just a big thank you, as always, to Betmate, who are sponsoring our preview content this season. It was so wonderful to see so many of you in our pot last weekend. Lots of you won cash, which was great. This weekend we go again. It's a £2 entry this week. The pot is bigger. You can see on screen how to enter. Download the app using the link in the description. You must be over 18. The pot code is FFEFL SUN Nor. You can see that down there. That starts 5 minutes before kickoff. You need to get involved with that. This is Chris's team. Krul in goal, Big Andy and Kirkin, Marcelino Nunez, which would get double points as he's captain, next to Alex Pritchard, with Sargent and Stewart up front. Mine looks fairly similar. One more Norwich player in there for me. Big Andy, Hanley and Krul at the back three. Big Andy is my vice captain. That's times 1.5 points in Betmate. Marcelino Nunez and Pritchard, and then Sargent is my captain. I also captained him against Millwall. That got me double points. Unfortunately, so many of you that captained him, so I didn't end up winning next to Stewart. You can get involved with Betmate using the link in the description. Download the app, enter our pot, and compete against all of our viewers and myself and Chris. Enjoy this video. It's an absolute cracker. See you soon.
Hello and welcome to the first TNC opposition preview of the season. Last time out, it was a 2-0 win in the league against Millwall. Up next, it's time to see whether we've got what it takes to beat newly promoted Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. I definitely got that wrong in a previous take, and who better to give us all the Sunderland spiel than Michael Bowers, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Michael, this episode has been how long in the making? I'm so excited to have you on the channel today. Welcome aboard.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on. And you're right, it's been a few years in the making, but the problem is, ever since we've said we want to do an opposition preview, we've never played each other because we kept screwing up promotion from League One, which was very annoying. That turgid league. I'll not bore people to death with it, but it was shocking. It was shocking. But yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm doing well. And I take it the mood in your camps are significantly better than it was 7 days ago.
Yeah, it was worrying, and obviously a couple of results now have got the mood up again for sure. I was very, very worried about last start of the season, I have to admit, and I think now, and you said this to me on WhatsApp, Michael, now we've got those wins under our belt, and this could be a more difficult game for Sunderland. Hopefully, fingers crossed, with a fair wind. Michael, let's kick off with a simple question. What is the mood like at the moment at the Stadium of Light amongst the Sunderland fan base? Obviously, you mentioned it there. You took your time getting out of that really terrible league.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
It's a tough league to get out of, though, more so than ever before, with regards to the wages cap and the financial regulations and stuff. And plus, there are some pretty good teams in that league, actually, to be fair, that are always there or thereabouts to compete with. So what's the mood like now you've arrived? You've got a few games under your belt. And I think my observations are you've had a good start to your campaign. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's only, 5 games in? There's only 41 games left. Not many games at all to try and solidify a playoff place. Yeah, well, I'm just enjoying... I think the mood around Sunderland is we're just enjoying the crest wave at the minute because, as you said yourself, we took our time getting out of League One. And I think this season, so far, to me, it seems like we're happy to not be in League One anymore. We're happy that they were actually in the Championship, which is we've had our differences on whether we think it's a good league, but it's a much more respectable league, in my opinion, than League One ever will be. And obviously, thanks to one of your former boys, Alex Neil, I'm sure we'll get onto him later, but he's just earned so much credit in the bank with Sunderland fans. And I'll say this right now, because you might want to save it later, but I'll screw up your structure of this. You said to me, oh yes, I told you about Alex Neil, because to be fair to this guy, he rang me and I was on the train on the way back from Wembley and saying, said to you about Alex Neil, said to you about Alex Pritchard. So I think I've decided I now love everybody who's got Alex as a first name. So, but honestly, we've had a very good start. I mean, if you'll assess what we've done, we drew against Coventry on the opening day, which we were leading until I think the 83rd minute. But Coventry are a good team; they'll be round thereabouts. Beat Bristol City, came from behind to beat them 3-2. Drew 2-2 against QPR, which is probably the result that I think's annoyed a lot of our fans the most. Because for those of you who didn't know, we were 2-0 up until the 87th minute, where I think is it Elias Chair? I keep getting his first name wrong. Scored a free kick, and then of course the thing that's shown on Sky Sports all over the place. Dieng, I think it is, the QPR goalkeeper, scores an injury time equaliser, which was very frustrating. But you know, I'm not going to get in a rant about that. But Sheffield United, obviously, we lost, I think, 2-1. We were down to 10 men for an hour, though, against one of the better teams of the league, so I'm not going to complain about that. And then we went to Stoke and won 1-0, when a lot of Newcastle fans were desperate for Dwight Gale to score against us, and safe to say it didn't happen. Thanks very much.
Michael, we'll talk about that Stoke game later on. We'll also talk about Alex Neil very soon, actually. It sounds like, and this is a refreshing conversation. I don't know whether it's just because I'm talking to you or whether this is genuinely the general feel amongst the Sunderland fan base. I think League One is a very humbling experience. I think it literally drags you back down to earth. And it does. Although Sunderland are an absolutely gigantic football club, right? And there's no shadow of a doubt that Sunderland should be a Premier League football club, 100%. But it sounds like you've got this healthy balance of actually, we are just going to have a shot at the Championship. Obviously, you don't want to get relegated, but it sounds like the club / the fans are almost managing their expectations a little bit, which I think is refreshing, because I think there's a lot of arrogance amongst and self-entitlement amongst these so-called bigger clubs. But it sounds like the mood is actually one of let's survive this season. Is that fair?
I would say, I think it depends on which fan you ask, because going into this season, I was very intrigued, because I put up on Twitter, I think I put a poll up or something asking, what's your realistic expectations for this season? Taking into account yourselves, Burnley, Norwich, you, Burnley and Watford going down. You've got Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, West Brom. You know, there's other clubs. Luton have been up there the last few years. There's a lot of established clubs in this league. And while for me, within 5 years, I'd like to be back in the Premier League. I think that's a realistic expectation. But I think some fans said aim to go up again. Some said mid-table. Some said stay up. It just depends. My personal expectation was, if we're above a relegation scrap, I'm happy for this season. I think that we've got, and I think, to be fair, we've got probably some of the players we've got I think are well suited to Championship level. Again, Pritchard's an example where we said in League One, he's far too good for this league. We picked him up when looks like he had a bit of a difficult experience at Huddersfield. So now he's starting to, I guess, fall back in love with football, if that's even the right phrase. And he's settled at home in the Championship. But you're right. We've got I think I'd be disappointed if in a couple of seasons' time Sunderland aren't attracting better Championship players, like as in top 2 or top 6 level players. But right now, we have to remember we've just come up after 4 years of League One. So for me, as long as we are not in just a boring mid-table season for once, just a nice, for me, a nice steady season. And in a way, I think that's probably better, because say we went up this season, well, I don't think we will, by the way, but say we did go up this season, we'd probably come straight back down, more than likely in 20th position. Financially, it would help, because you get like a year of parachute money and a year of Premier League money. But I think we'd have, I don't know, I think we need to build towards trying to go up to the Premier League. I think that's going to be a gradual multi-season phase process. And as I said, because I've watched 4 years in League One of teams time waste from the 3rd minute and try and do this whole, we've got a point against the mighty Sunderland. I'm like, I know you won't want me to swear, so I'm not going to. But let's just say this season, we're not having that. And I've noticed teams actually want to give us a go, which is so refreshing.
Yeah, you will find that in the Championship. I will. And although I've asked you that question, it sounds like your expectations have been managed. You are content with surviving this season. Michael, I told you before. I've told you when Alex Pritchard went to Sunderland.
I knew you were going to say this. I knew you were going to say this.
I was right. Right? Yeah. When Alex Neil was confirmed as Sunderland manager, I told you he would get you promoted. He got you promoted. And I'm going to make a statement now that I think will make you happy. And for the people watching and listening to this, feel free to tag us on social media, get involved in the comments to let us know where you think Sunderland will finish. I think Sunderland have a unique, distinct advantage in the Championship this season. And that is the unpredictability. It's the fact you haven't been here for a while. And it's the fact that you've got Alex Neil. Alex Neil's got experience of getting teams into the playoffs. He's got experience of winning the playoffs, not just with you guys, by the way, League One, but with Norwich City, of course, as well. Don't forget Preston North End as well, muscling their way into that fight as well. And I
on a very low budget as well, by the way.
Yeah,
very low budget at Preston,
Yeah, exactly. And I know your expectations, but I've just got this funny feeling that Sunderland are going to be in the playoffs this season. But who knows? And let us know in the comments where you think they'll finish. And let's talk about that man now, Michael, Alex Neil. I mean, as I said already, a guy that I said to you, as soon as you got him, he's exactly what Sunderland need. A motivator, someone with Championship experience, someone that is going to stand by their players, no bullshit excuses. He's a straight talker. He's got that scary Scottish bloke syndrome. And he's done you the of good, isn't he? But honestly, Michael, what do you think? Like, what do the Sunderland fans think about Alex Neil in terms of what he has achieved with the club, and what does his future look like at Sunderland? Like, could he be a manager that actually stays at Sunderland for perhaps 3 or 4 more seasons to come?
We bloody hope so. There's a start to the question. Right. We bloody hope so, because he's even if, and I think I was talking to one of my friends when we were driving back from, when he was driving us back from Stoke, and he was saying that even if, say, it went tits up in the future under Alex Neil, we're always going to have this appreciation for him, because he was the one who finally ended our stay in League One when we had 3 previous managers who failed to do so. And honestly, I think you're very hard pressed to find a Sunderland fan that is not convinced by Alex Neil. I think the frustration, I think, at the minute is that he's on a 12-month. He was appointed in February, which, as you said, you said this is your ticket to the Championship, and how right you were on that. Thankfully, delightfully, you were right. And obviously, that rolling contract, I don't quite know how a rolling contract works. I don't know whether it goes to next February, then it's assessed again, or whether it just goes along. But for me, a lot of our fans would like to see him get a longer contract, because I think we've got probably a decent starting 11. We've got a couple of players that I think can help us in the Championship, but some essence of the squad is still a League One squad. And at the moment, he's got us. Forget the fact is the playoffs. There's 5 games in, anything can happen. But he's got us only losing one of the first 5, which was a game when we went down to 10 men. And aside from QPR, he's got us winning. We've got more wins away from home than we have at home. So even though we've only played 2 home games,
Michael, what is that stat again, mate? It was have you won the most away games this season out of any? I'm pretty sure you have.
Someone said that. I think it said we've won 2. We've won 2 of our first 3 away games. I guess it depends who you play, though, to be fair. I mean, again, Sheffield United, I was never expecting anything out of that with 11 men, let alone with 10. Then Bristol City and Stoke, you get wins away from home. So we should have a first home win on the board, because we should have beaten QPR. But obviously, that's the Championship. You slacken for 1 second and instantly you get punished. And I'll say this, I've noticed the first 5 games, well, maybe not so much at Stoke, but the previous 4 games, the intensity of the Championship is a huge jump from League One. It's one where teams are a lot more relentless in your face. They don't let you settle or get time on the ball. But I've said all along, I think with Sir Alex Neil. Let's give this bloke the respect he deserves. Okay. Sir Alex Neil. With him at the helm, I think once our players get adapt to this level, the ones that haven't been here, I think we will be fine. But with him, there's the feeling of we are waiting for. I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. Our recruitment strategy is obviously at this point bring players in. Like the kind of the Brentford model to compare it, because it's the most accurate one I can think of. Bring players in that are obviously good enough, we feel could be good enough now, but really turn them into, I guess, superstars, for want of a better phrase, and then make a profit, which I've got no problem with. We've got to be sustainable. Everyone who's seen Sunderland Till I Die as an example, the first season, you need to know how much of a shit state our club was in financially. We need to not be in that again. So, but with Alex Neil, there's some fans feel Alex Neil's done this with very little backing. I mean, Jack Clark, for example, we signed from Tottenham. We spent 3 to 4 million on him, and Dan Ballard, who was part of a Millwall team who only just finished outside the playoffs last season, and he played over 30 games for them. We got him permanently. Them two aside, we've not spent that much money, and I feel a lot of people would think if we gave him what he wants, what could he actually achieve? Yeah. So your outlandish prediction of a feeling about us being near the playoffs, if we gave him what he wants, that might not be so outlandish, even though I'm not expecting it.
Do you think that you'll invest in January?
Depends if there's a deal there to be done. I think possibly. Yeah. But again, I mean, teams in the Championship, I've noticed this, are not spending as much as what they used to be, and I think I don't know whether COVID's had a big effect on that, which is fine. I've got no problem with not spending as much. It's all about how you recruit and what players you recruit, and the right, as you know yourselves, the right character, the right personality, who isn't overawed by pressure. Because for you guys, for example, there's rightly going to be pressure to expect to at least be in the top 6. Well, there should be anyway. I mean, we said in our WhatsApp, you said, we were baffled how opposition fans rate us. And I was tempted to go to you on Friday at 10 o'clock. That's why, because you've got the players that's why, because you've got the pplayers that should be doing better in this division.
No, you are right. You are right. And let's talk about players now for Sunderland. Like, just to, I guess, quickly touch upon this, and I think you corrected me on Twitter for this, but I'd read it somewhere somehow that there was quite a high churn of players at Sunderland prior to this season. I don't know whether that was just like the ranks below the first 11, perhaps.
Yeah.
So if you could,
there was a few in the ranks below that had left. To be fair,
right? Okay, because there was quite a amount. But again, that complements your unpredictability. But there's 2 players that I want to really home in on, and of course, many players have donned both shirts over the years. But there's 2 players in recent times. Obviously, we've already mentioned him, Alex Pritchard and Patrick Roberts as well. What do you think of those 2 players for Sunderland? And also, do you think that they'll start against Norwich City at the weekend?
Pritchard first, I think, will start. Okay. Patrick Roberts hasn't started a league game yet this season. He's been coming off the bench, which is so. I like both of them. I really like both of them. I think when you can tell Alex Pritchard, to quote you, Alex Pritchard really gets me going. Whenever he's on the ball, you can just tell some of the quality he has, and he presses, by the way. He even tries to jump for headers, which even he's a midget, basically, but it doesn't stop him trying to compete with 6'3" centre-backs. But he's got such quality. I mean, you know this yourselves already. And for us last year, displayed far too good levels for League One. And obviously that was the concern where if we hadn't got promoted, there's no way he would be here. There's no way he would have stayed, and he wouldn't. And he would just. He's at home in the Championship. Patrick Roberts is a funny one because obviously he's gone out on. I know he was on loan at you guys in your first Premier League season under Farker, wasn't he? Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I know he didn't. I imagine. Well, I think he went to Middlesbrough second half of that year, so I'd imagine he probably didn't make much of an impact. Yes. But with Roberts, I've always made the argument that if you give a player a home and don't have them go loan 6 months, loan 6 months, loan 6 months to different clubs, I think that makes a bigger impact than what people realise. Right. Patrick Roberts came in second half of last season on a 6-month permanent deal from Man City, and he's, for me, I've said all along, with the likes of Jack Clark or Patrick Roberts or Pritchard, these guys will make the difference in the playoffs if you get them fully match fit. And they ultimately did that. I don't know if you watched any of the playoff games last year, but there was the game at Sheffield Wednesday in the playoff semi-finals when we were 1-1-0 in the first leg at the Stadium of Light. And at Hillsborough, Lee Gregory equalised for Sheffield Wednesday. And then Patrick Roberts sends us into pandemonium. I mean, I was in a bar in Sunderland watching it, and it was mental in there. So goodness knows what the away end would have been like. But he scored the aggregate winner to take us to Wembley, and he should have scored at Wembley. There was at least one chance he had when very late on when the game was won, when he could have scored it. But so far this season, when he's come off, I think he's looked decent. But Alex Neil hasn't really been playing him that much, which says...
Yeah,
no, go on.
I was just going to say, the 2 players that frustrate me, actually, because for different reasons. Patrick Roberts frustrates me because he never really kicked the ball for Norwich. And I do feel like he's one of those players where, as you said, if we'd given him perhaps more of a chance, maybe some more consistency. But I think in the Premier League at that level, it was just too much of a jump for him. Yeah. So that kind of irks at me a little bit that we didn't make it work, but not as much as Alex Pritchard, because and I actually think, and I do wonder whether, in fact, I think Michael Bailey actually asked him this question in his article with The Athletic. I suspect that deep down, if Michael's not already got that answer out of him, that Alex Pritchard regrets leaving Norwich when he did, because was very much a case of, the grass will be greener, so I'm going to just stay in the Premier League and go to Huddersfield. And obviously Huddersfield were an absolute steaming pile of shite. And then he really didn't kick a ball for them either. And, but my overall emotions with Pritchard is I'm actually so happy to see him doing well, because I'm the same as you, Michael. Like, my God, does that guy get me going? When I was watching for Norwich, I'll never forget that performance at home to Brighton, where he just absolutely destroyed them. And obviously he was rumoured to go to Brighton at that point as well. And yeah, just pleased to see him well. So I thought I'd say that. Michael, let's start to drift on to this big game at the weekend. How can Norwich hurt Sunderland? Like, where are your potential weak spots?
It's a funny one. Right now we play with a back three. We've got Dennis Serkin, who's a left back that's playing in a back three. We've got Danny Bart, who was a 31-year-old defender who we signed from Stoke last January. Yeah, last January. And I've forgotten who the other one is now. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Recently, it's been a player called Luke O'Nien, who's we signed in League One. If Luke O'Nien starts at centre-back, because he was a midfielder at first, then he was a right-back, then he was a centre-back, then he's a midfielder, now he's back at centre-half. He's at Stoke, Liam Delap, who Stoke obviously signed from Man City, and obviously the son of Rory. He gave him quite a few problems as centre back. If Josh Sargent, for example, I'd imagine Josh, that's a mouthful. Josh Sargent, if he ends up starting this game, if he's got a bit of muscle about him, I think he could hurt him there. Danny Bart, as much as his positional sense is very good, and I think in general, I like no-nonsense defenders who just shithouse their way, just clear the ball, rooting into row Z. I love stuff like that. But he's not the quickest. So if you've got, and I think your attack's going to be quite, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be quite slick and a bit more on the ground and got a bit more, I would like to think, I think, put it this way, this will, apart from Sheffield United, this is obviously easily our toughest home game so far for me, by some distance, which it should be, because you're obviously a relegated club from the Prem. But yeah, that's where I think you could hurt us. I think it's one of those where if you get at us, it's a simple thing that if you get at us, get the first goal, then it changes the whole dynamic, because then we've got to come out and try and attack. I'd be disappointed if we just sat back for 90 minutes anyway, but I would think that if you go in front, then obviously it's the typical team comes out of you break on them, and that's how I suspect you would hurt us. I think I'm always an advocate of, if you keep clean sheets, you will probably win games. So if you shut us out, then there's a good chance you probably will beat us, I would think, because at the minute we've only kept one. Stoke, we kept a clean sheet at Stoke, but we have been conceding goals. But I'm more forgiving of that because you're against not shite players. You're up against players that are actually going to have quality and hurt you. But I would say this to you. I think Ross Stewart, I don't know if you've seen, we've got the two strikers. We've got Ellis Sims on loan from Everton and Ross Stewart, who we call the Loch Ness Drogba. I think I've told you this in WhatsApp before. Or if you haven't, there you go. Oh, no, I haven't. Okay, Loch Ness Drogba, that's what we call him. They've both got 3 goals each already this season. And those two, and with Pritchard behind them, I've made a statement that I think that's one of the better forward lines of the Championship. And I'm saying that not necessarily in conjunction with the relegated clubs or clubs competing in the top 6, but I think it's a top half level attack. If they keep that up consistently, they put it this way, we've had a few managers we've come up against said that Sims and Stewart have caused us problems. Yeah. So it depends. I mean, who's likely to start for you at centre back?
Well, it's interesting because I was actually going to lean into that, Michael, because it sounds like both of our defenses are a wee bit shaky, right? So it's almost like who will make who's more likely to make the mistakes?
Yeah.
And I must admit, I still maybe don't have 100% faith that we're not going to make at least one big mistake against Sunderland, particularly at your gaff with like the fans behind them, like, the atmosphere will just be obviously amazing, and it will probably feel like one of those games where the fans will give it more because they know it's going to be tough. So I do think it'll be interesting. I do think that defensive line for Norwich City and Sunderland will be probably what makes the difference. 100%.
Announce a 0-0 draw and nothing happens.
Well, and let's talk. And we won't go score predictions just yet, Michael. But how do you think Alex Neil will approach this game? Like, do you think that I can't see Alex Neil just going to park the surely he'll have a go at Norwich.
No, I'd be very surprised if he parked. Right. I think if he's gonna. I think what I would imagine we'll try to do is because I think your game is based on a lot of possession, and obviously I've watched you guys over the last few weeks, and you've said that I know XG you can conflate that whatever way you want, but the fact is you have been dominating games by the sound of it. And with the team you've got, you will create chances. So it's just a matter of whether you take them or not. I would imagine Alex Neil will probably I wouldn't say go conservative, but I think he'd look to stifle your attack and then press in the right moments and make you guys make a mistake. Yeah. If you've just said yourself, you don't have full faith in your centre-backs, I would imagine that Stewart and Sims and Pritchard and Jack Clark, I think, will be thinking, right, let's get at these and give it a go, especially because we're at home as well. If we say get the first goal, especially in the opening 20 minutes, I'd be very interested to see how Dean Smith gets you guys back into the game. And so for me, I would say a nice balance of defending when we've got to, but when we can, press you into areas where you will make mistakes and counter.
And I think that will make it a good game. I think it will make it an exciting game, and it will be interesting. I wouldn't say necessarily I'm worried about the centre backs, particularly for Norwich City. Obviously, at the moment, you may or may not know, Michael, that we've actually got Kenny McLean playing out in defence out wide as well, right? So that's a tough area for us because we're playing someone in the temporary positions. Yeah. Because we've got 3 injuries there, right? So that's going to be an area where I do still slightly worry. And it's just that ex-club thing, like Alex Neil getting one over us, Pritchard obviously scoring to sort of prove the point. I don't know.
Well, I'm obviously hoping for that, but to be fair though, how many times didn't Alex Neil fail to beat you many times with Preston though?
Yeah, that's a good point.
He didn't beat you very often, I don't think.
I think there was maybe one at Deepdale, I think, but I could be wrong on that. To be honest with you, my memory's an absolute sieve. So, okay, so we've done the performance. Let's maybe go back historically now, Michael. Are there any moments to you that stand out in what is factually the Friendship Trophy, by the way?
Yes, because you've earned the Milk Cup, aren't you?
Between Sunderland and Norwich City.
Yeah. I mean, probably the one. Well, to be fair, I've not been into football. I've only been into football over a decade, so I've kind of seen us. I think I've only seen us beat you twice. Ever since. I think it was one time when we beat you 3-0. It was your first season in the Premier League under Paul Lambert when Fraser. Okay, I'll not mention his name because obviously I know there's a bit of meh between Norwich and Paul Lambert now. But I mean, Fraser Campbell scored a very good goal. That was basically a worldie. I'm trying to think, what was the other one? Oh no, tell lies. I see us beat you 3 times. The second time I think was when we obviously won that game under Sam Allardyce at Cower Road, which I'll not mention too much because I know you won't want to relive it. And then the third time was under our lovely bald manager Simon Grayson in that relegation season in the Championship, and that was his only win, which was pretty. Yeah, in the league it was. That was the only win he got, which shows you how clueless he was. Honestly,
says a lot about Norwich. Says a lot about Norwich as well.
Well, to be fair, I suppose it does. If you lose to Simon Grayson Sunderland, then yeah, that's especially at home. That's not looking good, is it? Okay. If I had to pick a particular memory, it's a hard one. This, I'd probably say maybe that game under Simon Grayson. Aidan McGeady scored his first goal for us, which was a screamer. And Lewis Graben scored twice. I remember it. So that was probably my memory because that was the second game of this. To be fair to you, that was the second game of the season. I didn't think it was going to go as tits up as it did. But at that point, we were thinking, we've got a draw and a win in our first 2 games here. The Championship's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we know what happened after that, so let's forget it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
There was one game. I don't know if this was the 3-0 you've referenced. Again, I can't remember, which is poor from me. So people need to let me know in the comments. I think there was a game in the Premier League which was almost cementing the fact that Norwich were down, and you won 3-0 at Carrow Road. Was it 3-0
yes.
at Carrow Road? Was that the game you're referencing, Michael?
This was the one where we got a penalty in the first half. I think Fabio Barini scored it. Yes, and yes, for anyone watching, I'm an incredibly sad bastard. Sorry, you don't want me saying that, but screw it. Jermaine Defoe scored, and then we had an academy, not academy. We had someone who came through the ranks, Duncan Watmore, scoring late on. But obviously, that was the game. I said that season that was the game for me that kept us up that year. But because obviously, if you go on,
I was just going to say you botched it for so many seasons, didn't you? And I felt like again, Norwich were the team to just prop teams up, and that was the game. It was just such a depressing.
No, you clearly haven't watched us over the last few years. I think the season before that, we played QPR at home, for example. And that was the year in the Premier League where they hadn't got a single point away from home. Guess what they do? Come up here and beat us 2-0.
Okay, so maybe we're the same on that though. Maybe that's why we've got this joint friendship.
I think one thing we can agree on is equally as frustrating when it happens.
Okay, fine. Memory for me, which I won't explain in much detail, but I know Norwich fans will say
I know which one you're going to talk about. Yeah.
The Alex Tete screamer pops up in the air, smashes it home, stuns Carrow Road. I've never seen anything like it. Okay, let's get into crunch time now. We've been going for almost half an hour. And I really want to hear your answer to the big question on the Oppo preview, which is your score prediction. But as always, we do things differently on the channel. What's your head saying, Michael? And what's your heart saying?
My head is saying 1-1. I actually think if this was at your place, I'd be saying my head would say 3-1 Norwich, something like that. At the Stadium of Light, I would like to think we are capable of getting a result here. My heart obviously says 2-1 Sunderland. Alex Pritchard scoring, Patrick Roberts coming off the bench to get a goal. But let's take that out of it. Look, of who's my head thinks we'll get. I think honestly think we'll get a draw. But your head says who's more likely to win, it's obviously going to be you, because you'll have the players that should be up there, as I've mentioned. But what I want to see across the season is, and obviously at the minute we're a promoted club, fair enough. But I'd like teams to come up to Sunderland and think, bloody hell, if we're going to win this, we're going to have to work very hard for it, and to not underestimate the atmosphere that the Stadium like can create. And the reason the atmosphere has been shocking at times is because we've had nothing to celebrate. But anyway, to sort of end my waffle, I would say probably a 1-1 draw. I think I have a feeling we'll take the lead in the first half, and then I think you'll apply more and more pressure, and it'll tell, and you'll get a goal in the second half, something daft and stupid like that. But you know, if we lost this game, I wouldn't be shocked, but I also wouldn't be shocked if we won it.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm happy that you've said that we'll be able to get back into a game from behind, because
is that not typical under Dean Smith? Is it not?
I still think the jury's out on that. I think that when we go a goal behind, I don't think. I'm still not quite sure this team have got what it takes mentally to come back from that. I just don't like.
So would you be worried then if we took the lead then?
Oh God, yeah, 100%, Michael, and that's why I think my head is saying 1-1. But I actually would go the other way. I think we will score first, but then I think
I wouldn't be shocked there either.
Particularly with Alex Neil's unpredictability, the fact that he wants to beat Norwich, obviously being motivated, changing room, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But Patrick Roberts or something daft off the bench. My heart is saying a 1-0 win, a shithouse 1-0 win. I think it'd be really crap the whole game. And then maybe like in the last couple of minutes, there'll be a big goal for the mighty Yellows.
I think if you shit house a win, then I think that's the sort of results that can get you promoted at the end of the season. If you're not playing, especially away from home, if things aren't going great and you're up against it, and then you end up coming away with 3 points, then you've surely got to be a force to be reckoned with, really.
We hope and we pray, and perhaps it will be a result that means that we don't have this lovely relationship anymore, Michael.
Well, not till March when we come up to your gaffs, or come down to your gaff, I should say. The thing is, I mean, don't get me wrong. For me, I would snap your hand off for a point in this game, because I obviously know that. Look, I mean, I know you've obviously watched Norwich more than me. I think I've watched bits of your game against Millwall, and what I did see, you were dominant and deserved to win the game. But look, you've got better players. You've got players that have been in the Premier League last year, and obviously Josh Sargent is obviously getting on the goals himself now, so he's going to be up for it and in form. So I guess it just depends. It depends. I mean, if we went in front, I don't know. If we went in front, I could see us winning it. But again, it could yourself, football. It could take a daft red card like that, and something stupid happens, and then the game changes. So to me, you might feel differently now. I know you definitely said you'd take a point up here a couple of weeks ago. Probably now, I'd imagine you'd have a different view, which is fair enough. But for me, if we got a point now, I would take it. We've got a home game against Rotherham a few days after playing you, and to me, that's a much more must-win game than this one is.
Interesting. I do think from a Norwich City perspective, this will put out the fire and will turn me into more of an optimist than a skeptical fan, in terms of like being able to.
That's not like you, because I've known you to be optimistic.
No, but it's just because we have been dragged down like a cold bag of shit. Really, it's been a tough period, and I think welcome
to the club.
I'm in.
Welcome to the club. That's in League. Sorry to interrupt. That's how in League One it felt for a lot of Sunderland fans. We've been because we've got Newcastle fans, for example, our fans going, look at those attendances in League One. Yeah, when we've had relegation battle continuously, and we've had back-to-back relegations, and 4 years in League One, constantly cocking up promotion. Yeah, you get dragged down. Sorry,
do. 100%, mate. So I think from a Norwich City perspective, and of course the Norwich fans, let us know in the comments if you agree with this or disagree with this. I think that if Norwich manage to beat Sunderland away from home, it will really renew the faith and the belief in this team that we can go on to
just to ask you a question then, what's the consensus around Dean Smith at the minute? Because from what I've seen Jack's videos, I've seen your podcast, and I know it's a bit. Yeah. It seems on the outside, it seems to be pulverizing. But tell me why I'm wrong.
I think I still think it's slightly on a knife edge. I think still people are waiting with their pitchforks, but I think that's probably fair given what they've seen. I do think though, after the last couple of results, I think people are starting to feel more positive again. I do think that belief is being injected back into the Yellow Army arms again. But I still do think it's on a knife edge, and that's why this game away from home at Sunderland is so big. Michael, thank you. After so long since you said those lovely words about Talk Norwich City, it's been so long since then that we've got you on the channel.
Since we were in the same division and we didn't keep screwing up going up. Yes.
So, mate, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you spending your time with me.
No, thank you. Are you coming up? Or are you going to be watching it on the Sky cameras?
No, I will be watching it on the Sky channels. I can't hack that trip just yet.
Yeah. Sky for the fans as ever, aren't they? Absolutely for the fans. Yeah, I know. Let's put a trip for Sunderland all the way up to Sunderland for Norwich fans at 12:30. So you have to get up at 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah,
brilliant. Well done.
But fair play and kudos and respect to those of the Yellow Army that are. Michael, thank you very much. We've had the Sunderland spiel from you, the Norwich City nonsense from me. Thank you so much to all the Talk Norwich City subscribers, as always, for watching. Let us know what you thought of this conversation. Get involved in the chat on social media. We're at Talk Norwich City. Thank you, as always, to all of our primary partners and sponsors of the channel. And fingers crossed, next time I will be speaking to you guys, we would have beat Sunderland away from home. Come on, you Yellows.